Dr. Dave Baldwin. Thank you. Hands together.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you hear me down the back all right? Yeah, cool. So as the first world president of the International Healthy Bastards Club, I'd like to thank all of you healthy and not so healthy bastards for coming along today. The main focus of what we're doing today is to raise money for one of the icons of the Manawatu, the Arohanui Hospice, which touches us all. So don't be lean with your dough in terms of buying books or these bank accounts there. You can flick them some dosh as well because they rely on us to keep them going. Thank you so much to Sir Mason Jury for coming along as the patron, but also as an icon in Maori health, and his mana here makes a big deal for me and for everyone else, so thank you. It is Men's Health Month, and so it's important to remember that that has been generated because we have such poor statistics compared with women. The reality is we live about 4.5 years shorter lives than women, and about every disease we get before them, so we've just got to raise our act, and that's what Men's Health Month is about. Thanks. The Sports Physiology Department from UCOL have got health checks around the corner, which are free. It's good for them to deal with riffraff like yourselves. So for goodness sake, get a bit of a check when you're finished here, will you? I'm not sure whether they're qualified to do prostate checks or not, so I brought a stack of gloves just in case. But I'm not the perfect man. I actually forgot to bring lubricant. So maybe a bit of Kiwi can do or something like that. I did tell my issue and problem to my accountant. He suggested tomato sauce, and I said, no, Hugh, that's not going to work. So what the plan is for me to do today is to firstly remind you actually what the hospice does in our community. And that flows through to something that's really important to me, is that, believe it or not, there is a common thread between the hospice philosophy, Sir Mason Jury's model of Maori health and the Healthy Bastards campaign, and that is, from different angles, we all engender in our philosophy holistic health. It's not just about physical anymore. So just let the chaos begin. There's an early warning, of course, slightly dodgy. I was listening to Stuff this morning, and they came up with another shocking statistic about Australians. Are there any Australians here want to identify themselves? Well, apparently what has now been caught on film is not fake news. This is a big deal. What they've done is they've caught on film something that is much worse than the previous ball tampering entity. This is blatant. And what I'm saying is if there are any Australians here, I'd lie low because it's disgraceful. And that's real ball tampering. Anyway, what is hospice care? Hospice care involves dealing with the many forms, the suffering of the terminally ill. The Arohanui Hospice covers 200,000 people in the Rangitikei, Manawatu, Tararua areas. And in the last year's statistics, which Jeanette gave me, they dealt with 1,000 terminally ill people, which is a lot of people, which means they touch absolutely everybody. Hospice care is now provided by teams of specialists. It's just not a fat cat doc at the top. It's teams of specialists who have a great knowledge and expertise in dealing with death and dying. It's community-based care, and this, I was quite surprised with the statistic that Jeanette gave me that they've got a 10-bed unit, obviously, but it's only a third of terminally ill people spend more than a day in that place. It's really community-based, which is actually that much more special. In the old days, people in a small hooch, probably as big as this, they lived and they died, and so living and dying was so much more part of their lives, whereas now we've sanitized it. But now so many more people are dying in their own homes, and I actually think it's a good thing for the community, actually. The hospice needs community support. Nearly 70,000 hours of community-free support were given by supporters last year, and nearly 50% of their dough comes from us, so that's why we're here. Hospice care, you think, hospice care, cancer. Well, it's not just that. It's end-stage disease. Last year's statistics show that 2/3 of the terminally ill patients they dealt with had cancer, but 1/3 had other things, heart failure, renal failure, motor neurone disease. So what I'm saying is that the expertise to deal with these multiple illnesses is huge. So they're a great crowd. However, the guts of what I want to talk to you about tonight is the hospice have been for many, many years holistic in their view. So yeah, they deal with the physical issues of the terminally ill, whether it's pain in virtually any area, whether it's tummy, spinal, whatever, vertigo, nausea, vomiting, which can be absolutely profound, just to mention a few. However, it also focuses on patients' mental and spiritual well-being. Now, it's best described, Cecily Saunders was one of the founders of the modern hospice philosophy, because really it's only since the 70s and 60s. Prior to that, they just gave you morphine and you pegged out. Whereas people like Cecily Saunders developed this concept of specialised palliative care, and she had a term of total pain. Pain, not just physical, emotional, spiritual, a whole shebang. And it's also involving the families, who are just as important in the scene, because to see your elderly people, your brothers, sisters, wasting away is pretty tough stuff. So what I'm saying is the hospice have this holistic view on health. It's the social, mental, emotional, spiritual, as well as the physical, and it's a great credit to them. So at the end of life, the palliative care eases suffering, but it can also bring a lot of happiness as well. So that's the way the hospice is. When we look then at Sir Mason Jury with his Whare Tapawa health model, he developed in the early 80s this concept which is now standard practice for Māori health workers. We're not just dealing with physical issues, we're just dealing with the taha tinara, the taha wairau, or spiritual well-being, taha hini ngā rau, which is mental and emotional, and tahi whānau, or social history. That was pretty good, wasn't it? I practiced that all bloody night. So it's the 4 pillars, and it's a great credit to him, and that's why it's brought so much mana and stuff to him, and also to us in the Manawatu, that he's founded this and everyone else is following it. But again, it involves the holistic view on health. It's not just about sprained toes, heart failure, whatever. It's bringing everyone into it. With regard to Dr. Dave's Healthy Bastards campaign, it's been a bit more of a painful process, Forrest Gump-like experience developing this holistic view. I was trained in the early 80s as a doctor, and really had this, in our day, they weren't really into holistic stuff, you know, they talked a bit about it, but you didn't pass exams with it. So what I'm saying to you, it was a painful process, slowly getting on board this holistic health. And so I just want to briefly tell you about that journey so you can see the commonality between the 3 groups of people. So for 30 years I've been a doc at Bulls Medical Centre, and then developed my non-PC Healthy Bastards campaign, purely because I found there was this group of middle-aged people who were really ignorant of their health, mentally and spiritually. I'm not running them down, though, because they were good people. They just didn't seem to get it. Equally so, I got bloody sick of going to the morgue and signing off death certificates of people who were really good people, and they could have lived another 30 years for themselves and their family if they'd taken care of themselves. Hence, the Healthy Bastards campaign, which is non-PC, not to annoy people, but to sell good health messages. Initially, it was lots and lots of talks, the manual for dingbats on how to take care of their health. Most good people put them under their pillows at night, and it's purely about the physical side of things. However, so what I'm talking about here is, you know, talking about muscles and how your dick works and brains, and, you know, groups of people around the country love this stuff. Cholesterols, and you get lots of questions and stuff, and it's all about the physical. However, after a period of time, through my flying doctor service, where I was going right around, and I still do, the mountains, the sea, the farmers, all in the back blocks, and had these wonderful experiences with all these people, and I still do. that I thought, oh, you know, I got asked to write another book, so I did, and that was this one here, the Flying Doctor book. So it's full of lots of bullshit tales, but in the end, what was really important for me was it's sort of like, you know, became this enlightening experience, because it gave you time to actually have a little think about some of these people in the back blocks. They were awesome free spirits. They weren't just about the beefcake, the libertarian sort of physical. They had this depth to them. And so what I decided to do in my own way, because I wasn't really in tune with the hospice or Sir Mason's health model, well, I thought, oh, well, to be a complete healthy bastard, you know, it's not simply physical. There must be something else to it. And so I decided to redefine a complete healthy bastard as someone who takes care of their physical as well as their mental and spiritual aspects of life. So when you've got, you know, ideas flowing through your head, I think one of the best things to do is write a bloody book, because what it does is that it makes you formulate your ideas and at least provide a focus. So by the time I'd written it, I realised I had a trilogy. You know, Peter Jackson must get so mad with it. But I've got a Healthy Bastards trilogy now. I've got the physical side, the bullshit tales with sort of recognising what real health is, but taking a really dangerous step. And I say dangerous because you're looking at people's, you know, feelings beyond the physical of this Bushman's Bible. So I just briefly want to touch on it, is that what it's about is, the first quarter is I've just documented what I've been told and what I've seen. You see, if you want to get to know people and understand them, one of the best jobs in the world is being a doctor. Because after 30 years of knowing a lot of Bushmen and stuff, you become their confidant, and they will tell you things that they would never ever tell other people, even their wives, you know, even their loved ones, and you become a confidant. And so what you realise is, through this, there is a spirituality out there, but most of my clientele don't go to an established temple, mosque, church, whatever. Also, I'm actually an avid reader of some of these old books, the hunting ones. They're really good stuff. So you can pick up some good tips on that as well. Anyway, many of these people I deal with want to develop their spiritual feelings and thoughts. I don't know why, like, you know, no one really knows why. It's something deep within us. There's something more than the physical. There's some deep longing. Like, personally, I don't go to church or a mosque or anything, but we've been to Jerusalem 3 times. I'm searching in my own way. Maybe it's because I'm too much of a free spirit, you know, to sit down there and listen to someone bollocking on. I need to be out there in the big blue, you know what I mean? But I'm not running down other people's views. Anyway, there is this deep longing. So based on this, yep, there's something beyond the material world in my view now as a health worker on the ground. And I seem to have a similar line-up to what Sir Mason's been saying in his health model, and also in the way the hospice deal with people. Unfortunately, and I pointed out in this book, many of the people I'm involved with would like to go to a more formal spiritual pathway, whether it be Methodists or Christians or Hindu or Buddhist, whatever you like. But the face of religion now seems to be, because of the way the press portray it, fundamentalism. So, you know, like, you'll get people like this saying that the gays caused the earthquake in Christchurch. Now, what I say is it must have been a hell of a shag to bloody cause an earthquake. But, see, he got a lot of press. And so Joe Blow in the street sees this and goes, what? And they align him with spirituality and the moderates, and they don't want a bar of it. Equally so, you know, the press gets off on how many terrorists were you know, shot last week, you know, and then they show you video clips of night vision stuff with them running around and stuff. It's interesting, you can just see the top of that Jewish fella there. When we were in Israel recently, we had a tank commander take us around the Armageddon Valley, you know, and I said to him, what's the biggest threat to Israel? Without a flick, he said, Orthodox Jews, and he's a Jew. It's the extremists, because what they want to do is they want to end it all, and then they go to their little pathway to the divine. So, like, for example, Rabin, who tried to make peace in Israel with the Palestinians, was shot by a bloody Orthodox Jew. So all I'm saying is the extremists are the ones who are ruining it for us. So anyway, The last 3/4 of the book of the Bushman's Bible is to describe the 3 monotheistic pathways in our society in common man's terms, just the way healthy bastards like it. It may light a spiritual fire, it may not. Doesn't matter. I'm giving it a go. Just like with the physical side, I've Barry Crumpized it, the same as I've taken that dangerous step with the Bushman's Bible. It's pretty rough. It's not for brainy bastards, it's not for sensitive bastards, it's for the round the campfire, common man stuff. And that's what it's about. So what I'm saying to you is, and this is the punch slide for me in many ways, in our different ways, 3 different organisations, the hospice with that awesome end-of-life care, the leadership that Sir Mason has shown with his health model, and me now struggling through but finding it in my Healthy Bastards campaign, we're all on the same barrow in terms of pushing the holistic view. My strength is I'm good at the shit bum pup stuff, so you know, hopefully my form of communication will make a difference. So we'll see where we go. So fingers crossed I can make it work. I'm excited. In fact, thanks to some of the hospice staff for lending their portrait photos. This here is actually Simon Allen when he was a kid. That's Jeanette. She just got a pay rise. But I'm really excited because I've had really good Radio New Zealand book reviews, hunting magazines like us, and I'm aiming to get 1,000 of these books into 1,000 mountain huts, and we're heading towards 250 now. And the feedback I've had from hunters and stuff has been awesome. If they'd said it was bullshit, it's in the fire. But I know I'm onto something, so fingers crossed. Bookshops, it's good to do talks with them because you then incorporate, they get the press along as well, and it all spreads the word. And in my talks around the country now, and I've got 7 in the next 3 months, so like I'm talking to the Fonterra truck drivers in Pahiatua and Hawara in the next month or 2. Part of it will be to incorporate that mental, spiritual side, not just the physical now. So anyway, fingers crossed we make it work. I'm trying my hardest, but I can't lose here because even though in the end it mightn't work, what I've found is in terms of personal development, this whole Healthy Bastard trip has been awesome. You know, everything's changed. Like the last trip we did to Jerusalem, which is we got back a month or so ago, I went around all the holy sites, you know, the really holy sites, and got pictures of this, you know, like selfies. And so it was awesome, that journey of setting up that challenge. Like, for example, we went to the Holy Sepulchre, which is the holiest of holy in Christianity, and there's the epitaph or whatever, where there's the little slab where Yeshua or Jesus laid, and I wanted to get a picture there, you know what I mean? Jesus. So anyway, I got there, or Sandy and I got there, 5 in the morning, boom, the door slammed because they had a private mass there. Damn. So we went round the back, and the Coptic Christians had access. So anyway, I was there, and singing, "Cripes, I need to get in there," and I said to this monk, I said, "Can I go in?" "Yep." And then I was looking at this altar that looked down, and then I looked to the left, and there's this guy. I went through the roof. He looked like he's the Grim Reaper. He's one of these bloody monks with the big black thing, and you could never see his face. It was just down like this. I thought I met the Grim Reaper. When I settled down, I said, "Look, I've come all the way from New Zealand, you know, to get me book blessed here. Can you do it?" "No problem, my son." Yes. Awesome. So all I'm saying is, for me personally, it's been a great journey. The thing I've learned more and more with time is that there's a one-liner, and by far the best medicine is a positive attitude and laughter, and it can help the darkest times. You know, my best example of that is a patient who had quite a hideous facial cancer, and all he did was bloody whinge, you know. And he went to radiotherapy, and then he came back happy. I said, what's changed your tune? And he said, "Oh, look, mate, I was in a Cure 20, and I was the best of the lot. And everyone else, I don't know, they were telling us jokes. It changed, you know what I mean?" So even though he's dying of cancer, it just changed everything for him, that mental mindset. So, you know, I'm not the only one who says this. One of my great heroes is Leonard Cohen, and he studied for 5 years in a monastery, just did a runner, sat in a monastery and read all the scriptures, the whole bloody lot. In the end, he did a runner, because he decided laughter was the best medicine. And I go along with you on that one, Leonard. So I just want to give you an example of laughter. So when you look at this, just, you know, it lightens you up. You know, you think, shit, I've got an arsehole of a day today, and I'm going to see this dickhead, and I've got to do this, da-dee-ba-da. But when you see a good bloody clip like this one, it's sort of... this one is actually dedicated to Dave White of the police department.
What's your name?
Johnny McMonigal. Is that a problem, officer?
We'll find out in a minute. Suck into this.
A suck? Do not blow?
You suck these new ones. Hurry up. Now, what did you say your name was again?
Johnny McMonigal. Hey, that's no funny. I've been putting a complaint in about
All this, man. Hey.
It makes you feel good, eh? This is a good one too. I remember I've got a lot of... I've toned it down because I know, you know, but this is a good one.
Now can we have one with the bridesmaid? Lovely. Now, anyone who's wearing a suit for the first time. Super. Now, drunk uncles. All drunken uncles. Now, everyone who was invited out of politeness but wasn't expected to turn up. Okay. Super. Now, anyone who slept with the bride. Vicar? Yes, Vicar, at the back, please. I'll need the timer for this one. Go. Now, anyone who slept with the groom. And anyone who thinks this will last.
So the question is, with regard to laughter, how does this actually work? Why is it good for you? And it all boils down to your brain. And I've borrowed a brain of someone from Bulls today. So remind me to give it back there, Hasana. The human brain's where it's all at. And I'm not sure if many of you know, but your brain is between your ears. This is about the size of it. I say that it's between your ears because in actual fact, on the street, if you ask a lot of people where their brain is, you might be surprised. For example, on a slightly different topic, they did a survey in England once and asked thousands of men where were their testicles, and 4% said in their earlobes. Some people thought their brain was actually in here, around their heart. But anyway, if you look at a human brain, it's made up of billions of individual nerve cells, or neurons. These neurons form circuits, which then become circuits that are functional. So, for example, when I'm thinking in my cerebral cortex up the top, somehow or other that's reaching down to my consciousness and I'm perceiving you fellas. If I want to move my right arm, then I'm signalling the left side motor area, and through all this wiring, it's making the arm work. The most important point when it comes to laughter, mood, and function is that all of these billions of cells interconnect not by direct contact, but by chemicals. They're called synapses, these things here. My pointer's not working that well, but you can see a synapse there. So every nerve cell contacts the other ones, not by direct contact, but by synapses. So what happens is chemicals are released from one end, one nerve ending, and it reaches receptors in the other. So the significance of that is that you can alter nerve function in the brain by providing more of these chemicals which are involved in the synapses. So, for example, in depression, there seems to be a deficiency in certain areas of the brain of serotonin. There are other ones as well, So that's why a lot of people on antidepressants are on serotonin receptor uptake inhibitors. So you get more serotonin in the synapse. In Parkinson's disease, which is physical, there's a deficiency in dopamine way deep in the brain, and so by giving tablets of dopamine, it suddenly picks people up and they start working again. The important point is that in depression you get a lowering of the serotonin and a few others, but we'll pick on serotonin. Antidepressants will raise the level, but the whole point of what I'm saying is that laughter will do the same thing. So it's just a matter of somehow getting out of the jam and getting laughing. And that's what people internationally, maybe it's not happening in Palmerston North yet, are starting to do. They're recognising the benefit. You don't even have to have a joke. Just make yourself laugh. And so I'll give you a good example here. India seems to be the world leader in it. You have a look at this clip here.
Are you feeling bored of your everyday strenuous working exercise? There are times when I feel like doing something new, something different. One of the hottest workouts in India is a laughter workout. Yes, it's made to feel you laugh. People from all walks of life come here to plunge into throbbing laughter when more than half the world is in deep slumber.
Laughing is the highest stage of meditation. This way it reduces tension, it reduces stress and give relax to your body and mind. Ho, ho!
Cool, so you got the point. So from my point of view, I can't give you a module on health or lipids, but what I can do is give you a one-liner. And it is the most important, and more my experience in medicine is laughter is the best medicine, and people are practicing it out there, and there's good physiological reason for it because it raises the neurotransmitters. So what I'll do is I'll sign off here because Sir Mason's got a few words to say, but the most important thing from my point of view is that we're here to raise money for the hospice. It's not just to hear me bollocking on. So really think about it. On your thingamajigs is the hospice bank account, so flick us some dosh. And from my point of view, as a company Sandy and I own, is that you've got to put your money where your mouth is. So here's $500 for the hospice from us. So I ask you fellas, maybe you could think about it and maybe even match it. So thanks very much, fellas, and really appreciate talking to you.
So thank you, first of all, for the invitation. It wasn't actually an invitation. David required me to be here. But I just want to say what Dave has already said, and that is thank you to the hospice for the amazing work that you do for our people in this community and in communities further south. And Dave, thank you for your enthusiasm and your optimism, your choice of words, your commitment to the task that you're doing and the example that you've set. We're here today to talk about men's health. There's some of you don't actually look like men, but glad that you're here to set an example, because women set the example for life expectancy. Dave has already mentioned that women on average live 5 years longer than men. There's two reasons for that. One is that men carry all the stress, and the other is that the stress that men carry is self-inflicted. So our task is to somehow reduce that. Men look at health in a different way, I think, to other people. All around the world, people have their own views on health. We saw the view that people have in India. If you ask someone in America, ask a man in America what his health is like, you'll need a good half hour to hear about it. But I had an experience some years ago when there was an American doctor doing a locum out here for a general practitioner. And I had to talk to him before he went home. He'd been here for 6 months. And I said, how did you find being in New Zealand? And he said, well, it was a good experience, could sort of relate to people, but he said, I had a bit of difficulty understanding the average sort of New Zealand guy, particularly someone in his 40s or 50s. And I said, why could you not understand them? And he said, well, it was the way they talked. And then he told me about experiences. It went like this. So the patient comes in and the American doctor says to him, well, can you tell me what the problem is? What's the matter with you? And the average Kiwi bloke, who he is talking about, says, well, actually, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just a little bit crook. So then the American doctor says, well, does it hurt anywhere? Do you have any pain? He said, no, not a bit, only in the mornings. And then well, are you bleeding at all? Do you have any blood? And he said, very, very seldom, just occasionally at night, but no real bleeding. Are you feeling, can you move your arms and legs about okay? Good as gold, doc, except for the right side. And then the hard question, well, how does all this make you feel? And the average Kiwi bloke said, I don't understand your question, doc. Because, so quite often men are said to have no feeling, and that's part of the problem why we get sick so often, and we don't laugh enough, or have other feelings. But there's a really good reason why men don't share their feelings. A lot of people say that men never share their feelings. And there's a good reason for that. It's because we actually don't have any feelings. We just plod on and do what we've got to do and get really embarrassed if we have to do anything that's outside our comfort zone. A prostate examination can really create huge anxiety. Calling up the doctor to have an appointment when you don't have anything wrong, you just want a checkup, don't want to be a nuisance. So you, particularly if the waiting room's full, so we avoid doing those things. But the evidence is very much that we can prevent most of the things that cause premature or early death, and that's why this is so important today. Just a reminder that we ought to take ourselves seriously, even if it causes embarrassment, even if we don't want to do it, even if we think that we're invincible and that we'll carry on forever. We owe it to ourselves. More importantly, perhaps, we owe it to our families. I remember once at a high school, I won't mention the school, but it wasn't the one in Fielding, Dennis, and it wasn't the one south of Auckland that's now closed down. But the speaker there was talking at a breakup ceremony and said, I want to tell you guys not to smoke. Not because it's bad for you or not because you'll be found out, but because it's bad for your children and their grandchildren and your grandchildren when they come. So of course in those days none of us had actually thought about having children, but what he was saying is that our health is important not just for ourselves, but it's important for the people who depend on us and the people who will come after us. So I just want to leave it there. I was going to, Dave mentioned quite a lot about whare tapawha. I just want to say that all was first enunciated at the tutorial room in the Palmerston North Hospital in 1982. So it's stood quite a lot to the Palmerston North Hospital for that opportunity. So Dave, I might just leave it there again, just to say thank you, Dave, for the Healthy Bastards campaign and all these books which have been in front of me right now, which are available outside for sale. Thank you for bringing these things to our attention, for the approach you're taking, for the dealing with the average Kiwi bloke, who's quite different from the average Australian bloke, and quite different from the average Russian bloke. I saw something on television the other day where before the soccer World Cup, which is now on in Russia, they had courses to teach Russians how to laugh. A new experience apparently, but they had good tutors out there who were teaching Russians how to laugh. So Dave, that's what your final message, the importance of laughter, is one that you've demonstrated to us today. Kia ora.